Hi, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome to Storytime with Moonie, where I read bedtime stories to littles in every community every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Feel free to follow me on Instagram at Moonie the Space Kitty or Moonie the Space Kitty SFW. The only difference between the profiles are the tags that I use. On my profiles, you'll have access to the items that I sell in my little shop. Now grab your stuffy and get real comfy. Let's get started. Today's story is Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. Now, I've never heard this version of it. It's a little different, so if you've heard this version, just comment down below. Once there was a queen who longed for a daughter. As she sat sewing by her window one winter's day, she pricked her finger on the needle. 3 drops of blood fell from her finger, and she thought, "I wish I could have a daughter with lips as red as blood, hair as black as the ebony of this window frame, and skin as white as the snow outside." Before long, she gave birth to a beautiful baby daughter, with blood-red lips, ebony hair, and skin as white as snow. "I will call you Snow White," whispered the queen to her new baby. But soon after, the queen died, and the king married again. His new bride was very beautiful, but she was very vain. She had a magic mirror, and every day she would look into the mirror and ask, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And the mirror would reply, "You, O queen, are the fairest of them all." As Snow White became more beautiful with every day that passed, her stepmother became more and more jealous. One day she asked the mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And the mirror replied, "You, O queen, are fair, it's true, but young Snow White is fairer than you." When the queen heard these words, she was furious. She called her huntsman. "Take Snow White into the forest and kill her," she commanded. The huntsman had to obey his queen. He led the beautiful girl deep into the forest. When he pulled out his knife, Snow White was very afraid and started to cry. "Please don't hurt me," she begged. The huntsman took pity on her and decided to let her go. "You must run as far from here as you can," he told her. Snow White fled into the forest. As darkness began to fall, Snow White came upon a little cottage. She knocked softly on the door, but there was no answer. She was so tired and frightened that she went inside anyway. There she found a table laid with 7 places and a bedroom with 7 little beds. Snow White lay down on the 7th bed and fell asleep. She awoke to find 7 little men all staring at her in amazement. "Who are you?" she asked. "We are the 7 dwarves who live here," said one of the little men. "We work in the mines all day. Who are you?" "I am Snow White," she replied. When she told the dwarves her story, they were horrified. "You can stay here with us," said the eldest dwarf. One day, the 7 dwarves went off to work, and Snow White stayed at the cottage and cooked and cleaned for them. "Do not open the door to anyone," they told her as they left each morning, worried that the wicked queen would try to find her. Meanwhile, the wicked queen asked the mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And the mirror replied, "You, O queen, are fair, it's true, but Snow White is still fairer than you. Deep in the forest with 7 little men, Snow White is living in a cozy den." The wicked queen was furious and vowed that she would kill Snow White herself. She added poison to a juicy apple, then disguised herself as a peddler woman and set off into the forest. "Who will buy my fresh apples?" the wicked queen called out as she knocked at the door of the dwarf's cottage. Snow White loved apples, but remembered that she must not open the door for anyone. Instead, she opened the window to take a look. When the peddler woman offered her an apple, she was nervous. "There's no need to be frightened," said the disguised queen. She placed the apple in Snow White's hands. Snow White hesitated, then took a bite. The poison worked the moment it touched Snow White's beautiful red lips. The piece of the apple became stuck in her throat, and she fell down to the ground. When the 7 dwarfs returned that evening, they were heartbroken to find their beloved Snow White was dead. Such as their grief that they could not bear to bury her. The dwarfs made a glass coffin for Snow White and placed it in the forest, where they took turns watching over it. One day a prince rode by. "Who is this beautiful girl?" asked the prince. The dwarfs told the prince Snow White's sad story, and the prince wept. "Please let me take her away," begged the prince. "I promise I will watch over her." The dwarfs could see how much the prince loved Snow White, so they agreed to let her go. As the prince's servants lifted the coffin, they lost their grip. The fall jolted the piece of poisoned apple from Snow White's throat, and she came back to life. When Snow White saw the handsome prince, she fell deeply in love with him. "Will you marry me?" asked the prince. Snow White happily agreed. Before long, the couple were married. The dwarfs joined them in the prince's castle, and they all lived happily together for the rest of their lives. The end. Thank you so much for spending time with me, and I hope you feel loved, and I hope you feel safe. And until next time, good night.